Okay, Mr. Chair, we're live streaming.
Okay. Very good. Buenas everyone. It's February 7th, 2025. This is a resumption of our last meeting that was recessed due to technical difficulties. It's now February 7th. It's 20:10 p.m. right now. Buenas everyone. We're going to continue following the agenda. We're down at item number 6. Are we still we're still in A, or we move to B? Vice Chair? I think we're done with A, correct?
What
Yes.
was it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're done with
Okay.
A. We move down to item B, AT&T update. And I believe that is dealing with our amendment to the lease, and our legal counsel has approved the amendment to the lease. Oh, it's waiting for his signatures. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may jump in here, I think the most useful update would be to get some information on where GITA and/or AT&T might be in obtaining a appraiser so that we can try and make some forward progress on a permanent lease transaction with AT&T. As I indicated previously, there are legal questions as to exactly how long this month-to-month relationship can continue. As everybody I trust is aware, leases that extend past 5 years are supposed to be approved by the legislature. Our initial 5-year relationship with AT&T is up, was up last year. At the same time, folks understand, we want to continue to get paid. We want to continue to have for there to be a legal structure in place for how AT&T is operating on Guam. That being said, the powers that be have indicated they hope we will have a new proposal for the legislature and the governor soon, and that this month-to-month relationship does not linger.
Okay, so can we get some input then from either party? Okay, Mike?
Mr. Chair, we have drafted an RFP for an appraiser. We've discussed previous appraisals that were done by AT&T, and they've advised us how previous appraisals were done. So we're pretty much ready to go with an RFP, provided that we have a month-to-month agreement signed. So once that's signed, we're ready to go, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Now, with regard to the details of that RFP, do we need to set a separate meeting to discuss that, or how would that work? Because we did get some different information, or some supporting information from our legal counsel that looked pretty good. So I wonder if there's any.
If you would like, Mr. Chair, we could distribute a draft copy of the RFP to all of the parties, and provide a period of time for them to take a look at, and then we can go from there.
Okay, very good.
We do need the month-to-month executed.
Okay, so that's priority, at least for now, to get that thing approved, and then we could work out the details on the information of that RFP.
We can provide the RFP to everyone immediately, Mr. Chair.
I'm just wondering, did that factor any of the input that our legal counsel forwarded to the? Well, at least he forwarded some information to me that was kind of like. Maybe
I believe it does, but I'm not exactly sure
Okay,
what Mr. Miller may have provided to you.
okay, okay, very good. Let's address that matter first, but AT&T, do you have any input?
I think
Yeah,
Leslie's speaking, but I can't
Unmute.
hear her.
Okay, there you go. There you go. We can hear you. I'm sorry, we didn't catch what you said. What did you say?
I said, I think Leslie Hovey is speaking for AT&T, but because I think I see her mouth moving, but there's no audio.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, we can hear.
Yeah, there's no,
There's no sound.
Yep, there still is no, yeah, there is no sound.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I might suggest if somebody wanted to make a
Motion?
motion and a second to approve the month-to-month lease, and if we can ask that the RFP for appraisal services be distributed for discussion and comment at next month's meeting, I think we could wrap this agenda item up.
Okay, very good. Very good. So let's we could address the provided that AT&T you have no pertinent input to put right now.
I'm not sure, but I think Leslie's going to try to call in. She's our counsel in this matter. She's the one who couldn't be heard. I think she's trying to call in. So let me just let her call in, see if she has any.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mr. Chair,
Vice Chair?
I think we should just I will just make a motion so that we can move forward, and then we get into the discussion. So I move to approve the month-to-month lease.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve. Second?
I second.
Okay, second by our Madam Secretary, Commissioner Alino. So I guess we're gonna move into discussion, and then let's see what I think the opportunity for Leslie to call in.
Correct.
Ms. Hovey?
It says it looks like it says it's trying to connect her audio.
Yeah, I can see it. It's
Yeah, connecting to audio.
okay.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me
Okay,
now?
there you go. Yes, we can hear you good.
There we go. Okay. I
Okay.
had to call in and now I'm on my phone. Thank you very much for inviting us to the meeting tonight. What we had, as you all know the background, there is a month-to-month lease. And it is based on the previous lease, the October 1st lease, which is what we're calling it, the old 5-year lease. So I think GALC or Gita had prepared a month-to-month lease, and AT&T had made comments on the lease. And we sent them back to you, and I think Mr. Miller had approved it, but there were a couple of comments that Gita wanted added to the month-to-month lease. So I was able tonight to revise the month-to-month lease and send it to a number of you. I did not have emails for the commissioners, but I did send an email this evening right before this meeting with a revised month-to-month lease. I sent it to Mr. Miller. I sent it to Mr. Cruz. I sent it to Diego, who's not on, and I sent it to a couple of other, Tony, and I did send it to Ed. But I did not send it to the commissioners because I did not know their email addresses. Mr. Miller I did send it to Mr. Miller, whether he has it now or has been looking, he wouldn't have had time to look at it yet. But what I attempted to do in the revision to the month-to-month was to add the section about adding the submerged lands as part of the defined term of unknown premises, and adding a section that says that once Guam or a Guam owner becomes the owner of that property, that AT&T would be paying a fair rent for that property once it got added. The only change that I made that was somewhat different from what GALC or Gita's suggestion was to suggest that when we lease the so-called unknown premises, that we actually do a separate agreement for that and keep that lease or license agreement, whatever it happens to be, separate and distinct from the lease that we've entered into before, that covers the land and the building. So we would just prefer to keep those separate if that's possible. I think it's better for both parties because it'll make it easier, I believe, to come to an agreement about what the fair market value is of the two different properties, because they are different. The land and the building are completely different from, and probably are covered by different Guam laws than the submerged lands. So that's the only change we made. We're very happy to enter into an agreement with a Guam owner once Guam owns that property. And we're very happy to enter into that agreement, and we're very happy to pay fair market value for it whenever that happens. And in the meantime, we'd love to move forward with the appraisal that we've been discussing already and get a fair market value for the building and the land, and move forward with another 5-year lease for that, and maybe even be lucky enough to have it designated as an extended term contract, so we can keep the building and the land for a good number of years in the future, and keep that separate from the submerged lands. And hopefully we could do an extended term contract on that as well when that comes up. That's looking, of course, into the future. But my attempt tonight was to revise the month-to-month to include the provisions that Gita asked us to address. So I apologize for the lateness of getting it in there, getting it to you, and I'm happy to send it to whomever's email I can get so that everyone can review it. Yes.
Yeah, okay, Mike?
Mr. Chair, let me just give you some background on the reason Gita suggested some changes. The October 1st lease identifies easements that we didn't know who owned. So they were not included. They were included in the October 1st lease as unknown easements. When you look at those easements, they're all on the land. There's none on the ocean side. The legislative bill attempted to charge rent for the submerged property when and if it ever gets in the hands of the commission. So we felt that we needed to include submerged in the month-to-month as a commitment, as a sign of a commitment from AT&T that they would be willing to address that. So with what Ms. Hovey is saying, we don't have any problem with that, but it's kind of, I think, more with Attorney Miller, who should advise on whether splitting the property and the submerged property is something that the commission should do. But we only included submerged as an amendment to this month-to-month because it was not included in the October 1st lease.
But there's still a question regarding the submerged land. The submerged lands are still within well, outside of the government of Guam, and so
Yes.
is the easements. They're still outside of the government of Guam, correct?
Yes, correct.
But yet you included it as
No,
like,
basically what we're saying is that when and if it ever gets returned,
oh, okay, I see.
then
I see.
AT&T would.
Okay, so that's what the language entails. It entails when and if or something like something. Did
Correct.
that? Oh, okay.
Correct.
Legal counsel, would you need more time? Should we address this on the next hearing, or are you okay with us moving with the motion of our vice chair?
No, I'm okay moving forward, simply because whenever the ownership of the submerged lands comes back to the government of Guam, and somehow, some way, exactly who's going to enjoy the benefit of that ownership will have to get sorted out. But that being said, the legislature has passed a set of laws governing leases for submerged lands that set forward every single term for a government lease for submerged lands, including what the rent is and how long these leases can be and all that sort of good stuff. So whenever the submerged lands come back, are returned to the government of Guam, and the government sorts out who it wants to own the rights to those submerged lands, the legal questions are all already resolved by the legislature's laws on submerged lands.
Okay, so would the motion by the vice chair entail the new information that she's got in there? Because it seems kind of advantageous to have that language on with his motion cover the language that she just added.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I mean, we're not altering
Right.
the term. You know, the term is 30 days, 30-day time increments. The rent is the same. The dry side, all the rights to the dry side operations are being leased to AT&T, and if we ever come into the ownership for the wet side portion of the lease, you know, that'll get sorted out, but there won't really, other than who owns the wet side easements, the rest of the legal terms are already set.
Okay. That being said, then it's not necessary for her to really amend that or add that language in there, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't put it in, and the government of Guam came into the ownership of those wet side easements tomorrow, we would apply the law and
Got it.
Send a bill to AT&T without really having to take much action at all.
Okay, I get it. So AT&T was actually being amenable to Gita's right? Gita's testimony that they gave regarding that situation.
Yeah, I think knowing how the legislative debate went on the lease, whatever it was, 4 or 5 months ago, where this was an issue, I think we can fairly represent that AT&T has indicated that whenever the ownership comes back to the government of Guam, they understand that we have laws on submerged leases, and we will simply apply those laws.
Okay, understood. Vice Chair?
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure. Who's that? That's
I'm sorry, this is Shelby Jackson of AT&T.
okay, Shelby. Okay, you're recognized.
Mr. Miller, I think the law you're referring to is, I think it's Public Law 3646, right? Like 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I don't keep track of them using those numbers, but yes, we're on the same page.
I just want to make sure I was understanding the same thing. Thank you.
Okay,
And
so,
again, just,
go ahead, Leslie?
excuse me, Mr. Chairman, excuse me, I just wanted to clarify as well that that we did make the revisions that were requested by Gita, but we also suggested that we would do that later on by a separate agreement, and we would keep the lease for the dry side, as Mr. Miller says, separate from the lease on the wet side, mainly because the rent for each of those different areas is probably going to be determined differently, because as you had pointed out, the rent for the wet side is going to be determined by statute. It already has been determined by a new law, whereas the lease, the rental for the dry side is going to be determined by appraisal, and the appraisal process is talked about in the lease. So that was the main reason for keeping that separate. We would be interested in probably having the same terms and conditions, the same length of term and all that stuff, but we would probably think about keeping them separate documents because of the methodology used for determining the rent for each of the different premises, the wet versus the dry. So just to be very open about it, that was the other change that I tried to make in that month-to-month lease.
Okay, understood. Okay, so, any other questions from the commissioners?
No further discussion, Chair, Mr. Chair. No
Okay,
further
Mike?
discussion.
Gita, Mike, you have your hands up?
Yeah, just a clarification. As I understand this discussion, we should go back to the month-to-month agreement before Ms. Hovey revised it based on Gita's concern. And that's what the commission should adopt or approve is the one
'cause
prior to, I mean, the one you have in front of you right now.
we
And not
didn't
the one that was revised by Ms. Hovey based on
That's
what
correct. 'Cause
Gita
we
was
didn't-
saying.
Yes, correct,
Okay.
because we didn't receive the revised one, but I know our
Yeah,
legal
so-
counsel. Yeah, so, but he says that it's gonna cover it, whether it's in
Yeah,
there or not,
yeah.
because of the statute.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
Okay.
agreed. Yeah, that's fine with us.
okay,
Just,
so,
act on the one that's in front of
That-
you
that-
now and not the
the
revised.
motion, okay, the motion still stands, and, any other further questions? No further questions? Okay, we do have a motion on the, by Vice Chair Lagwanya to approve the amended lease with AT&T. It's seconded by Anita Orlino. So let's have a vote. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. We just need
Commissioner
to-
Westing, you're on mute.
Oops, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute.
We need your vote.
Oh, sorry. Could you
This
repeat
is-
what was
there's
on
a-
the table?
The motion is to approve the amended lease. So that
Okay,
we can move forward with Gita to get the appraisal. And then we can
Okay.
work on an extended long-term lease with AT&T upon the completion of the appraisals
okay.
and agreement.
This was for both the wetlands and the dry lands?
Not
Yes.
the wetlands, I believe, just the dry lands,
Dry side
Oh,
only.
I'm
the
sorry,
dry
what?
side only.
Dry side only, because we're gonna keep them separate. That was the
Yes.
discussion, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay,
If it
then-
ever, yeah.
yes, to keep, okay, yes, so approved.
oh, approved, okay.
Yeah.
Any nays? No nays? I Kathy, our acting director, motion passes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're good to go. Si Jus Masi, AT&T, for appearing for this hearing. Thank you. Adios.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, the only other issue I have on this topic is to express the hope that for next month's meeting, we can take up the review and consideration of the RFP for the appraisal, and that we can all get a copy of the draft appraisal RFP here in the next several days.
Okay, very good. I would like to Mike, if I could maybe set up a brief meeting with you, maybe with some of the other board members, just regarding maybe before the meeting, just so we can clarify the information we received from our legal counsel, some of his options.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay. Thank you very much. And we're gonna move on to our next item. We are down at item 7, new business. Status of federal excess lands, land return. That's USPL 103-339. But I think it's not limited to that. Kat?
Correct, sir.
Okay.
But,
Uh,
what do you?
Were you
Yes,
able okay, were you able to get find that enabling legislation regarding the language? That
we did, but it doesn't say regarding your role in the excess lands, having to communicate with the director of land management. Is that the
Yeah.
one you're
yeah, that's
talking
kind of
about?
yeah, that's kind of interesting because the speaker at the time did say that it was in the law, and that's that was a surprise to me. You can see there. So maybe she's referring to something else in that enabling legislation. Joey, it's not there.
No.
No, sir. All I found was that land management was required to uh, inform Ancestral Lands Commission, and this so that's all I found as far as the excess lands.
I see.
Whenever excess lands are received by the government, land management will reserve it and inform the Ancestral Lands Commission.
I see. I know throughout the years, vice chair and some other commissioners have brought up the status several times. We've been on it, but I didn't know that that they were supposed to be in the enabling legislation, but I guess it's not. So I don't know how to deal with that right now. Maybe just get the update from Gita right now and see where we're at, because Gita or land management. Let's do that right now. Gita?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah. Is dealing with the excess
Well,
land. Just the status of where we're at with it, what came back.
Yeah, I believe we were asked to provide an annual report at the last meeting, and to be presented at a future meeting of the commission. But generally speaking, we understand that there are at least 3 properties that the federal government is in the process of returning to the government of Guam under Public Law 103-339. Those 3 properties include the wetlands in Agate, Nyamo River, the Maui Tunnel above the former Tamuning Telephone Exchange, Tengisan Beach Park, and those are the 3, and possibly USO Beach and USO Beach, which is not part of 103-339. We understand that at least the 3 deeds may be with the Attorney General's office, but we don't know. I mean, that's kind of what we've heard, but we don't know for sure. So that's with regard to the 103,339 properties. With regard to any future properties, the governor had requested back in 2019 that the Navy return over around close to 3,000 acres of terrestrial land and 17,000 acres of submerged land to the government of Guam. To date, there has been no action by the military on that. They did indicate that they were willing to begin processing those properties, but they haven't. So that's where that stands. The 2019 list submitted by Governor Leon Guerrero included properties kind of around the island, to include South Finagadzan, which, as Kathy had indicated, is being considered for missile defense, to include the former housing area up at Nimitz Hill, which may also be under consideration as part of missile defense, and other properties currently owned by the military. As far as the status of those, we have not heard. Maybe Kathy or Joey has heard otherwise, but that's the last that was done, was 2019, the list submitted by the governor. But we will provide a more comprehensive report as we had indicated we would at the previous meeting of the commission.
Okay, so if just to clarify, they're all under consideration and some are in the process. Is that how I understood it? There was so much information you gave, or is there any that were actually given back?
There are 3 that we understand are the Navy has provided government of Guam with the deeds, but those deeds have yet to be signed. And then there is.
That's with GITA, or that's with the governor's office, or that's with?
I'm not sure about this, but we heard that it was with the Attorney General. Maybe Mr. Miller would know.
Mr. Chairman, members, I have no additional information. If Kathy wants to email me, sort of specific lot designations or more specific information, I can certainly make an inquiry with the people in the office who would be handling that if there was something to address.
But this is the first I've heard about. If it did go to the AG's office, it's the first we've heard that it was to go there first. Is that correct, Joey? That it,
Mr. Chair, it's to execute the deed. So the governor has to sign the deed accepting the property.
Oh, okay.
And then it would go to ancestral. So the governor has to receive it first.
I see. So it didn't, and then somehow didn't it go to you then and then to us? Is that how it went? Or no? Because I remember in our abstracts, typically it went to you and then to us or something.
That was base closure property.
Oh,
the properties that were transferred under the base closure federal law came to GITA.
Oh,
because the law specified.
That was a different animal then, totally different statute. Okay,
the public law 103,339 went to the governor, and that those properties have been, many of those have been returned and given
Understood.
to the commission, who subsequently transferred
Got it.
them to their original owners, except for the 3, I think, that are still pending under 103.339.
I see. So that's the proper procedure, I guess, typically is that if there's properties to be released, the deeds go to the governor and the AGs for review, correct?
Yes,
Something-
yes.
I-
If it's not base closure properties, then it goes to the governor and the AG.
Okay, so can you give inquiry into our legal counsel official, inquiry into our legal counsel regarding the status of those 3 particular deeds Guido was mentioning?
Yes, sir.
Or if there and any others that might be involved?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. You did mention 106 with regard to USO. That's the only property then out of the ones you mentioned that's under 106. The rest is at 103.
I haven't seen a deed. Oops.
You're on.
All right. I'm still on.
You're on.
My screen just blanked out.
You're right. Still see you. You're still on.
Oh, what happened?
You're on though. We can see you.
Gee. I don't know what happened, but
Oh.
anyway, I haven't seen a deed on USO, so I don't know under what authority they may be transferring it. Could be 106. I just don't know, because I haven't seen a deed for USO.
But you did mention 106 though, with USO on your report.
Um,
You did mention that.
I'm sorry.
Just saying.
I
Just-
don't
I'm not
recall
saying-
that.
Okay, let's move on. Questions?
'Cause
Somebody?
I have a comment. Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of talk about that particular property, USO Beach. So do you have no information on that matter, Mike, from the governor or from anyone regarding that piece of property?
I don't know the status of
Okay.
that property.
How do we get some information? Because, the speaker had always indicated to us that we should have been notified within these properties to be released. That's what the last hearing we had. And she was questioning why weren't we included in these informational meetings with regards to the return of such lands. Is it by law that we're not included in that, Joey, by any chance?
I believe it's up to the governor to include us or not. Your role as commissioners is just to receive these excess federal lands. That's all I read in the law.
Okay.
With regard to your question too, Vice Chair, I believe Mike Ugita is kind of saying that he might be of the impression that there's 3 deeds at the AG's office, so we're having.
That's what we've heard, but we're not.
not sure.
I don't know if that's true or not. That's what we've kind of heard.
That's why we're asking. We're having Kathy give a formal inquiry into it with the AGs with our legal counsel, and then they could find out if it is there.
And then with regard to the governor's request back in 2019 for close to 3,000 acres of terrestrial land and 17,000 acres of submerged lands, I believe the commission has that list, has the report that was submitted by the governor. And it's just that there's not been any progress on the Navy side with regard to the transferring any of it.
So it was
Okay.
only a request. It was only a request, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you don't have a copy, we can
Yeah.
provide it to you.
Yes, please.
Mike, was that a request from the governor for information, or that's basically just basically to get information on the lands available, the government of Guam lands
It,
available?
it was a list of properties that the governor believed was not going to be used for the marine buildup.
Oh, okay.
So it was called potentially releasable. And then the Navy came back and said yes to some and no to most. But no, even on the ones that they said yes to, they haven't moved.
Oh, I see. So it's specific for federal properties. That's what you have. That's what it pertains to.
Yes.
I
Yes.
see. Okay. That's clear. Any other questions with this topic? Excess land?
Comment. You know, if we could get at that list, you know, and
Yeah, we'd like that very much.
Mr. Chairman, and we move forward. We you know, with our congressman, you know, let's get these lands back before they, you know, they start land grabbing again. But according to the Missile Defense Agency, according to them, when I attended those hearings, they said they weren't going to use any more additional lands for those 16 sites. That we're going to use existing lands. So let's see if they can hold up their word to that, so that we can get these lands back to our people. That's my comment.
They were going to pretty much stick with the footprint that they already have. So I see. That's probably why we're not seeing too much movement, maybe on the excess lands. So any other questions? Okay. I do have something I'd like to bring up with basically with maybe our land agent too, and our legal counsel, and maybe with Gita, regarding 106. I got some information that there's stipulations in 106 that specifies public use and references 103. If there's any ambiguity or whatever. And but I get that clarified, because it came from a very reliable source, as a matter of fact, that with regard to the qualifications of the description of public benefit use, we were to refer to 103. So can I get legal counsel to clarify that with regarding to 106?
Mr. Chairman, you're going to have to give me more information in order to respond to your question.
There was in the past last couple of years, regarding returning these excess lands back, we had some heated discussions regarding that we could not return specifically 106 properties to the original landowners, because there was it's deviated on they were saying that the loopholes that allowed the return of the lands to the original landowners in 103, they closed the loopholes in 106. But then I got conflicting information, very reliable information, that it did not. That there's actually other stipulations in that on that public law, that if there was any ambiguity in the interpretation, I guess, of that bill, that we were to refer to the language in 103, or the stipulations in 103. And to be honest with you, I'll just go ahead and let you know that it was the author of that bill that clarified that to me. And okay.
Okay. Similar to the question about where some of these deeds might be. If Kathy can send me a email that, you know, sort of asks this question in a somewhat more formal manner. I don't have an answer for you at the moment off the top of my head, but I can certainly get one for you. You know, keeping in mind that you know, as I have seen from time to time, not necessarily on lands coming back to ancestral lands, but in other situations, you know, we have to start the analysis of what the parameters are around the land in the deed that transfers the land from whomever to the government of Guam, and then down the chain. The different deeds carry with it, you know, the language in the deeds has changed over time, and when we're considering any particular piece of property, the conversation starts with, well, what limitations, what obligations, if any, are in the deed, and then we work out from there.
I see. When you're saying deed, you mean the deed could be altered after, or we're talking about the public law that transferred the.
Well, there are laws of the United States which govern the transfer of land from the United States government to the government of Guam. But when any one particular piece of property is transferred, that transfer happens by a property-specific deed, where we actually specify, you know, that the United States government owns lot number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the United States government on this day hereby conveys the land to the government of Guam. And over time, the United States government is in essence the seller, it's the grantor, the giver of the land, and the giver is entitled to put conditions on the transfer of the property in the deed, and depending on what era the transfer occurred, those deeds come with different conditions. Most of the time, they are unconditional. Most of the time, the United States government simply says, it's your property and don't ever call us back if you find any unexploded ordnance or environmental dump sites or anything like that. But we have to start with looking at what conditions might exist in the deed, and then we work out from there to conditions that might be in these public laws that, and Guam laws, and so I have to start the analysis with, you know, any one particular piece of property in order to give you an authoritative opinion.
Okay, I appreciate that, legal counsel. Joey, yeah, I was about to get your input in this, Joey, regarding our public laws with excess land returns.
So, Attorney Miller, just to ask really simply, whether the U.S. law allows it or not, does ancestral land have to, I mean, so we have to follow Guam law, whether the U.S. law allows it or not, we have to follow Guam law once Guam receives these properties, you know, to return these back to the original landowners. What would your advice be on that? Because I believe the speaker was saying, you know, I'm not sure, I might be misquoting her, but I believe, you know, she says whether it's allowed or not, Guam law tells us to. So you know, and, you know, maybe we should give you some time to think about that, but I was just wondering, you know,
Well, I'll give you one example of a transfer that I happen to be very familiar with. The United States government wants to transfer to the government of Guam a piece of land on which today there's one of GPA's power plants, and there is the United States government very much wants to transfer that piece of land, and very much wants to transfer that land with a condition on it, which essentially says the government of Guam understands that for many, many, many years, there's been a power plant on this piece of property. And if in the future any issues arise as a consequence of there being a power plant on this property, the government of Guam took the property knowing it was a power plant, and the government of Guam gives up any rights it may have to come after the United States government for environmental issues associated with the operation of a power plant. That's the language the United States government wants to put in the deed transferring this power plant property. And so even if Guam law says, well, if there are environmental issues, the government's supposed to go find the entity that created the environmental issue and try and get the entity that created the environmental issue to remediate that property. If in the deed the government of Guam has already given up its right to, in this case, pursue the Navy and the U.S. government as a whole for environmental issues, well, the deed, the conflict between the language in the deed and the language in Guam law, in that case, the language in the deed would prevail, because Guam accepted the deed subject to that condition. So generally speaking, we have to, I can't answer the question generally. We have to look at, we have to start by looking at, were there any conditions under which the U.S. government transferred the land to the government of Guam? Generally speaking, there are not, but in some instances there are. And if there are no conditions, then we just generally apply Guam law.
Vice Chair?
Are you aware, Mr. Miller, with regards to these, upon the release of such lands listed, are any negotiations being done with the governor's office as to such use of those lands upon release for public purposes? A classic example was the Eagles Field one. That one was they had a specific reversionary clause that if it wasn't going to be used for medical purposes, that it wouldn't be maintained back to the military. So that's my question with the one with USO, because I'm hearing that they might have placed that intentionally for the purpose that that USO property was like small, and it belonged to several owners, and then the purpose of that would to return it back would be very minimal for the heirs to share, and that it was suggested that it would be used for public purpose, and there were special interest groups that were inquiring for such of those lands, the use of those lands, and that's what I've been hearing. But have you heard of any pre-negotiations with the governor's office and the military before the inclusion of such reversionary clause or for public purposes or whatever instances those lands can be used for, designated in the deed?
Mr. Chairman, members, as I indicated, that the only property that I have specific knowledge of where there's dialogue between the governor's office and, in this case, the Navy over what clauses, what rules might be put in a deed to transfer the government from the U.S. government to the government of Guam is this particular power plant land. But there are other lawyers in the office. You know, I don't get to see every single real estate transaction that comes through the Attorney General's office. So if you have questions about particular pieces of property, if you just let me know what those properties are. I'm happy to go check with my colleagues. The only one I have specific knowledge of, as I said, is that power plant tract, because the federal government wants language in there so they don't find themselves in the same situation they were with the dump, where at some point in the future they're going to write a big check. They're anxious to give the power plant land back, so long as the government of Guam takes it as is where it's.
I understand. Thank you.
In actuality, we know what particular property you're talking about there. Let me ask you, if the government of Guam refused that conditions,
Yes.
if they refuse the conditions, like, hey, we want you to clean this up first, per se, the federal government just probably bank the property or sit on it or something.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that there, I don't know what the standard practice is, but I can tell you that there from time to time there is, call it, negotiations between the government of Guam and the federal government over conditions or limitations of particular pieces of property. There's nothing that prohibits or prevents those discussions from going on.
Okay, lastly, is that probably part of a public law we were talking about, 106, 103?
The power plant property?
Yep. I think it is. Vice Chair? Judy?
I don't know off the top of my head.
What I know through the hearings, from the legislative hearing with the speaker, was that the Eagles Field matter won, because there were letters and communications that was going directly from the Navy to the governor's office back and forth, and that's how that was designated property for the initial first approach attempt for the hospital. And that was tracked by Speaker Terlahi, saying that there was just they had that in the planning, and there was a letter that was tracked supposedly. So that's why she wanted to include us in those meetings, because that Eagles Field incident there, when they had meetings during former Director John Birch having meetings up at the governor's office. None of us were. I don't know. I was not invited to that meeting.
I wasn't either.
See, so there was just like just going forward from front office attempts.
Yeah, sounds like we do have some, at least we have some activity going on. Can we, Kat, can you include that information, the request from the AGs on our next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Possible that maybe, I think that might be enough time. If not, that's regarding our inquiry into the, even into the 106, the stipulations.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and also I did see a communications letter from the Attorney General regarding those particular matters with regards to the lands that is supposed to go. I mean, include us in some sort of communications. Yeah. I'm not sure, but I forgot. I thought I saw that was handed to me through some other source. But if he can track the legal opinion from the Attorney General on the matter.
Hey, Kat, can you give us a rundown on just exactly what we're we're asking you to do with the AGs?
Yeah, going to email Attorney Miller regarding the return of the 3 lots that was mentioned by Mike.
Okay.
We wanted to know the status of Public Law 106. 106.504. Those were the only, those were the only 2 that you wanted me to get with him, and then to also request if he knows of the copy of an AG opinion saying that we must be included in that committee when it comes to US federal land returns. Those are the 3 I have listed here.
I think number 2 with 106, to be specific, I'm referring to there's a section in there to if there's referring to any doubt about the public benefit status or
Okay.
public benefit definition. It says
Yeah.
to refer to 103. That's my specific question regarding.
Okay, I have a copy of the law. I'll go ahead and
Yeah, and,
forward that to him.
It says
in
it's
my
in
email.
there, and it's in there. I don't think it's a I think it might be a 1-page section, kind of like towards the end or something like that. But he
Okay.
confirmed with me it's in there, and kind of like confirming that we can legally return properties from 106 to the original landowners without violating the stipulations of 106.
Yes, sir. So I already prepared the public law. I have a copy of the public law that I'm gonna forward to him for his review and the AG's opinion on the committee to return the excess lands and the status of the 3 lots. Are we going to include the USO? Because he said that USO was a possibility, but he didn't say if it was. He only said the 3 lots.
Yes, include USO.
Include US, that'll be 4. So that'll be 4 lots because he said
I
that.
thought the 3 covered it. That's why I thought that
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, I thought it was one of the 3.
Yeah, Mike said the wetlands in Agate, Nyamu, the Maui Tunnel, Tengisan Beach, and then the 4th one, he said that it was USO possibility.
Could be
Yeah.
possible, could be one of them.
Yes. So that's what I have here that I have to email to Attorney Miller.
Okay. Very good. Okay, we have any further questions? Nobody? No further questions? Okay, we got good time, 3:12. Just over an hour, Mike? Mike?
Just one item on Smith Bridge. We kind of thought they would be at this meeting today, but they just to kind of give the commission a heads up, they're thinking of subletting a piece of their property to Black Construction because Black Construction has a contract to repair the glass breakwater at the harbor. But when they're available, they can discuss that. In the meantime, though, we just received a request from them. For some reason, they're being asked to provide authorization from the commission for the installation of temporary power by GPA. I don't really know why, but they have a lease agreement. I don't know why that isn't sufficient, but they're asking for a letter of authorization to allow GPA to install temporary power at their facility in Polaris Point. Could we just get Kathy to sign off on a letter? Would that be okay?
I think from what I understand, GPA requires, from the I know they require it from Tomorrow Land Trust. I think they're assuming Ancestral Lands is the same with GPA that they would need.
Okay.
So I don't
But-
know if it's board action that needs that or just basically the Kathy can do it. I'm not sure. I have no idea whether that would.
As-
Mr.
Kathy,
Chairman,
can you
Yeah.
research that and see if you can just take care of that? Or do we need board action on that?
I contacted Joey Cruz, who's the acting down at Chamorro Land Trust. And he said he's authorized to sign on those authorizations because it was just like an administrative matter.
Okay, so yeah, I don't think we have any issues with it. Board members, right?
well, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Vice Legal Counsel.
Legal counsel.
the one observation I would make is having addressed this issue with GPA and Chamorro Land Trust is, let's just say we had to have a couple days of dialogue with our friends at GPA when Chamorro Land Trust insisted on a sentence in the access letter, which said, you know, if in setting up these temporary power plants, these temporary power generators, you know, if they spilled diesel fuel or one of those generators exploded or, you know, something horrible happened, that it was all GPA's responsibility and GPA would take care of the problem, and Chamorro Land Trust could never be responsible for the activities of GPA on Chamorro Land Trust property. And it took us a couple days of discussion to get GPA to go along with that. Eventually they did, but I will tell you the very first letter, access letter they sent over, didn't say anything about what would happen if, you know, diesel fuel spilled all over the property.
Wow, that's very pertinent information. Let's see. I thought it was just basically they were going to put up a pole and then give them power, maybe with a weatherhead or something like that. But they're planning to put a generator on there or something. Is that what it is?
I don't know, but I know on the Chamorro Land Trust, you know, dialogue, it was expressly to install diesel generators on the property.
Okay, from what I understand, then, Mike, thanks for that info, though. That's great info. So, Mike, is it basically just to provide power, simple power?
That's what we thought, that it was
Yeah.
just a hookup.
Just from a transformer on the pole coming down to a weatherhead and giving them power.
That's what we thought, but we'll clarify, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, clarify that, and then Kat, with prudence, we can look into that and see.
Yes, sir.
Before you do authorize that, and just to see exactly what they want and the language
Right.
is in. So that, you know, I think if it's if it's just a power pole and providing them like commercial power, the basic, but if they're gonna put up a generator, that's a different story. Thank you,
Yeah.
legal counsel, for that.
I
That's
agree.
good information.
I agree.
Get
Okay,
it in detail and in writing.
Yes, sir.
okay. I know
Yes,
too, we
sir.
had somebody that was trying to access the property up down south, right? I guess that will come up in the next hearing, Kat?
Yes, sir. The next meeting.
Okay. So right now, I'm looking at the agenda, and I think we're done with new business, and we can move on, guys, down to public comments. Okay. No public comments, announcements. We're at number 9. Item A, next GALC board meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to bring to the board's attention that Attorney Miller will be on leave
Okay.
next week. So
We have Commissioner Cruz on. Welcome, Commissioner Cruz. We were just about to adjourn.
Yeah.
Buenas. Oh, you're on mute.
You're in mute.
I was having problem logging
Okay.
in.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so how long, when would be proper, or the next meeting? What date would suffice for everybody and for 30 minutes?
When is he coming back? When are you coming back, Attorney Miller?
Mr. Chairman, members, I will be off island only next week.
Okay. Will you be excused then?
Thank you.
It's like,
Have a
it's
safe,
like,
safe,
I
have a
guess he'll be
safe,
back. I guess he'll be back in time for us to meet
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
posting deadline, right, Kat?
have a
Yes.
have a safe trip and don't get deported.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Have a good trip for sure.
All right, be safe. Okay,
Okay,
sir, Mr. Chair, anything else? No public comments?
Joey?
Tonda,
There's Joey.
Oh, man, I was gonna ask Mike if he could introduce us to Mr. Duenas. I guess he logged off already.
Mr.
Maybe
Duenas?
next meeting. Ricardo Duenas?
Okay, what is
Um,
he?
Yeah, he was online.
Yeah, I saw that, but I thought it was just a public,
I
Um,
believe, oh,
Yeah, Ricardo Duenas is a new staffer at GITA.
Oh, okay.
I apologize for not
oh, no problem.
introducing him, but he's kind of helping Tony with matters associated with the commission, as well as other things that GITA needs him to do.
Okay, very good,
Okay,
very good.
Motion to adjourn?
that's right.
So next meeting though, we're still on the next meeting?
Yeah,
Next
Until
meeting?
Miss, legal counsel gets back, right?
yeah, when he
No,
gets back.
Cat can, he's only gone for next week.
he
Yeah,
does,
Yeah, just for
so
next.
I can send you an agenda and we can have a meeting either on we can have a meeting on a Wednesday, the 26th at the end of the month. He'll be gone next week. We'll send the agenda, but we won't be able to get a response from Attorney Miller by the next meeting for the stuff that we wanted him to look into.
Yeah, just deal with the matter. Just handle it
Okay,
and
let
inform
us
us.
know.
Yeah,
Right.
the 26th is a Wednesday, you're still, that's about 2.5 weeks away, right?
yeah, or we can do it on the 19th because he said he's only going to be gone for a week. So we would just have to do an agenda and get it approved by Monday and send it in. Because remember, we have to send our ads in, like if we were gonna
By-
have a
yeah.
meeting, yeah,
6
If we're
days,
yes.
Let's
one
try
extra
for-
day.
Try for the 19th then. If
We'll
that's
try
okay
for the
with everybody.
19th.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes,
I-
sir.
If that's okay with everybody.
Okay,
Yes,
19th is a Wednesday at 2 p.m.
Okay,
2:19,
Yeah.
Yes.
2 p.m.
How about the Wednesday, Thursday, the February 20?
on Thursday?
Yeah, we usually have our meetings on
Wednesday.
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 Second Wednesday of the month.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm okay for the 19th or 20th if needed. I'm fine with it, but we can't do it the previous week because he's gone the whole week. So
Okay.
we're still gonna try for the 19th.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, yeah, adjourn. And
Motion
get
to
off the off the recording for a minute, right, Joey?
Yes, and then we can have a little short
Right.
discussion.
I want a short discussion on a particular matter.
Same here. Motion to adjourn. There's a motion.
Yeah, Commissioner Olino already motioned.
Okay,
And
motion
it's-
to adjourn.
okay, that's
It's at 3:23 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.
Stop recording, Joey.
Hang on.